It's time.
It's time.
And now, it's time for Herman and Sharron.
I love you, and Sharon is out of town. Sorry about that, but we have a great, actually two guests today, and you are going to love this interview. In fact, if you're going with someone right now, you may not be going with them after this program. So I'll just warn you, that's my warning. If you're already married, there's nothing you can do about it. It's over, okay? Just stay married. Figure out what you need to do. But this book is so neat because, well, we'll get into it. I won't give it away. But the guy that inspired a lot of this, Heather Collins Grattan, is that right? Grattan. And her husband, they're going to be with us and they're going to be challenging everything I ask them. But my good friend Joseph Cristiano, the blood type guy, if you've ever, I should have brought up the video of me getting a blood test because I pass out. And so I was on the couch in the green room while they were trying to give me a blood test. That's an experience. But come and meet our guests because it's good to have you guys. And my wife, when I told her about the book and told her what was in the book, she goes, "Oh my goodness, I should be there." So, Ron, it's good to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, how did you decide to come on with us?
My wife got the invite, and she said, "You're going."
I said, "I'm not going alone."
Don't you love her infectious laugh? I mean, it is just amazing. Have you always been this way?
I think so, yes.
It's one of the things that keeps us going, I think.
He keeps me laughing all the time.
It is so neat to, I mean, did when you were going together, that was the sound that you heard often?
We actually got to know each other first, Herman, before we ever met each other. I mean, it
That's
was
true.
over
Face
the
to
telephone.
face, yeah.
During a business trip, she happened to be working in the same location that I was staying, the same hotel that I was staying at.
Yeah, I was the hotel operator at this hotel, and so his company was moving him down here to Florida, and so he was living there for a month. And after a while, I had to put him on hold because we would be talking, and he's real chatty, and so it was real natural, you know.
And so the laughter part, I think, did kind of really build up a lot of the intrigue in the beginning. So
Now tell them what you do.
I spent most of my life with a large international company. Retired supposedly to Florida, and
Supposedly.
Yeah, it's not really retired.
Yeah.
You never really retire
right.
anymore.
No, you can't afford to retire. But I now work for a large national medical group, and I'm a physician recruiter with them.
So you actually sit down and interview physicians?
Yes,
Yeah.
all sort of like what you're doing, but not face to face. I
Not
do it all
always
over
face
the
to
phone.
face, yeah.
So it's remote recruiting. I identify candidates, physicians that are good matches for our practices, and they travel to the location and actually meet with the medical director and the staff at the practice.
Either
that
the
you're joining.
hosptal or the clinic. They're
So
all
I-
around the United
Now,
States.
have you
I
ever decided this is a good guy and it turned out to be, my goodness, what was I thinking?
Just-
Officially, no.
Just like any other recruiting, yes. In other words,
Yeah.
somebody that might be on paper or on a resume
Looks
or CV.
perfect.
Looks perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even sounds good on the phone. When they get there, the interview might sometimes go south, and we have to make the adjustment. But it's pretty much like any other recruiting. It's just that you're dealing with very high-level professionals, and we often don't get to see them until later, years after they've joined our group, and I happen to be at a meeting where they're at.
Your book, The Compatibility Matrix.
Yes.
The Qualities of Your Ideal Mate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a note that I have written by you. Why did I write this book anyway? Okay, let me just start
On my
there.
website,
What is your deal?
You know, it's funny because I've been I knew that you were going to ask that question. I thought, how am I going to answer that question? Because I've been interested.
Because I put it down.
Yeah, I know. I've been interested in it my whole life, and my mom will even tell you that when I was maybe 5 years old, my parents had some people over from the church, and my dad is a Presbyterian minister, so we had some people over for dinner, and so And everybody was sitting around the the living room at one point. I can't remember if it was before dinner or after dinner. And these people were sitting next to each other in the chairs next to each other, and they were so nonplussed. And I thought, I know that they're married, but I thought, really? Like, they don't seem like they're interested. They're not holding hands or anything.
Have you ever sat in a restaurant and looked around?
Yeah. Well,
I have actually done this as a game with Sharon, and I've said they're not married.
Right.
They're married.
Yep.
Married, not married.
Exactly.
I mean, it's easy.
And I said, when I was 5 years old, I said, "Are you two married?" And everybody laughed, which I think is the only reason I remember it, because everybody laughed, and I thought it was a very logical question, you know. But yeah, I mean, I've always been curious as to what draws two people together.
That's my next question. It's
Yeah.
out of the book.
Yeah.
What makes couples choose each other? What is that?
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating. That's why I wanted
That's what
to-
the book does, by
Right.
the way. And the website's going to be up so you can have your opportunity. She is, hey, I don't have her big comment. Linda, bring that over here. I've got to brag on this girl.
Oh, thank you.
because, you know, I love brilliant people, which means I'm
He
not.
just called
That's
me
my wife.
brilliant.
Which means I'm
I
not.
should be taking notes here. Hold on a second.
But look at this. I mean, what are you?
My part is just at the very end. It's just a little segment. at
Yeah,
the
but
very
even
end.
to be asked to do this.
And I was told I was the first one to participate in that project, actually. I waited for 14 years for
This
that
is
to
a
come
study
out.
Bible.
Yes. Yeah.
So can they go on your web and get a,
They can go to the HCSB website. Yeah, it's really easy to Google. You
Okay.
can find it really easily. In fact, we have a Facebook page for that. I made a Facebook page for
good for you.
For that. Mhm.
so they can find out
Yep. Mm-hmm.
how to get it, okay? But I was impressed. I mean, because I'm a book nut. but-
Yeah, well, it's a way to read the whole Bible in 3 years, because I got stuck in Leviticus. When I was in college, I read the whole New Testament, and, you know, that was a real breeze. I mean, the New Testament is a breeze, but then I started with Leviticus, where I left off, and then I still got stuck, and I thought there's got to be an easier way to do this.
Good
than
for
the,
you.
You know.
I feel the same. I read through the Bible every year.
Yeah.
And you know, I go, when I finish a certain chapter, or actually
Yeah.
3 I read at a time,
Oh, that's
I
good.
go, Lord, what are you saying? I mean, do you ever, I mean, it's like.
Now, Psalm 119, you can't read 3 at once.
No. It's broken up, but it's amazing though. And if I read it every year, yeah, I still get stuck in certain areas.
Yes. Yeah, you get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
there's certain
And
parts.
so you've helped in this.
Yep.
She's broken it down into logical breakpoints on a daily basis. So
Good
some
for
days
you.
there'll be a little bit more readings, other days there'll be a shorter amount of reading.
And you can read
But
them
a
in whatever
logical-
order. Yeah, and thank you, because that's a good way to put
Do
it.
you ever do this? Pinch yourself and say, Lord, thank you for making me so smart. Do you ever do?
Well, I try not to say it like that. But
Okay. So your mom and dad? I mean, what is your background?
Well, my dad is a Presbyterian minister.
Okay, you said that. Now your mom.
And my mom's a teacher, and she majored in psychology, and she really helped me with the survey, and because because she studied that in college, and so I said, well, I just want to see if there are certain trends, because why does this work? They're 24 years apart
Yeah.
between us.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of
Why
people who
does it
said
work?
that's not going to work.
Why does it work?
Exactly. So I said, you know what? And so when I read this one section of one of Joe Cristiano's books that he wrote with Stephen Weisberg,
Yes.
this little section where they happen to notice, they said, we happen to notice, by the way, that among the married participants, there were these certain trends among blood type. And so I thought, well, that can't be the only thing. And so I thought, wait a second, there was this birth order thing that I remember growing up with that my mom learned when she was in psychology and such. And my parents used to always talk about how, oh, we're both the oldest of 7 kids, and we have so much in common, and that's why, and all this. And I thought, wait a second, I had this aha moment. I thought, oh, maybe there's a blood type thing, and then there's the birth order thing, and maybe there are other things. There's got to be the religion component. You can't be disagreeable there, and there's got to be some of these other things. So, and there were definite trends, and so the trends are what are delineated in the respect principle.
Has anyone written like this? Is this a?
I hope not. I don't think so.
No, but I mean, because I read a lot of books, I don't ever remember reading the combination.
Right.
Now-
That's what this study was about.
You say you're looking for someone who is a lot like you.
Yes.
What is with that?
Yeah, I mean, everything. And there are certain trends with the blood type thing. And the thing is, the reason that we have the respect principle is you can really kind of figure out how similar somebody is to you, because there are certain people who maybe their birth order is a little bit off. Ron and I are both the oldest of, we're both
Our families,
firstborns.
first
Yeah,
born.
he's the first of 6. I'm the first of 2. And And so we've seen certain trends. And and I profile 66 couples in the book. One of them is my aunt and uncle, and they're both middle children, and it's just fascinating. It was fascinating to see the results.
Now, my wife, firstborn, and I'm second.
Okay, second of how
Now, even
many?
though I have a sister that is much younger than me,
Okay.
the way you pointed out in the book, which I never knew, is
Yeah.
because of our distance, she is like a firstborn.
Right, she is.
So that's interesting.
She's a virtual firstborn.
I never looked at it like that. But, okay, my wife firstborn, me second, not compatible, right?
Well, since you're a middle child, you are really compatible with pretty much everybody. You're one of the flexible ones. What's funny is that twins, I noticed, were not really attracted to any of the middle children. Twins tended to like the lastborns or the firstborns, which
Wow.
was kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And only children. Middle children like you do not tend to get along with only children because only children think that all eyes are on me. They grew up with all the adult eyes on them, and they think that they're the center
Prima
of
donnas.
everything. They can be. That's
Ron,
the
you can
danger.
jump in you know this show, okay? It means you don't have to raise your hand. You just start talking.
And I've actually read the book.
Yeah.
So did you contribute any, or did you just kind of stand back?
It took, because we both work full time, it took a while. Plus, she
Yeah.
surveyed over 500 people.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I handed it out to 500 couples, and I got half of them back. So so over 500, yeah.
And it took quite a while because we both work full time, so she could not dedicate just writing time. So she would sound a lot of this off of me or have it,
That's true.
read. What I found interesting is I then read the book once it came out to find out that I certainly did not start out looking for my wife with all these
I know.
guidelines.
That's exactly what I thought of. I thought, my goodness.
I mean, I could have used that book, then I wouldn't have met her, of course. But
That's why I warn the people that are going with somebody right now, when they get the book, look out.
right, I mean,
So
we don't want people
true.
going and say, wait a minute, we're not compatible.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
How did this all happen? But
Can I meet with you tonight? I got to tell you something.
we don't want to cause divorces. We're trying to build up
Exactly.
relationships.
Yeah.
But the,
No, once you're married, that's why I said it's over.
it's-
Yeah, and I say that in there
Yes,
too.
yeah,
Once you're married,
yeah.
then ignore
Deal
the
with it.
parts. Yeah, deal with it.
It worked, right? But when I actually read some of these chapters, I said, I didn't realize I was looking for these things. I could have been more or less looking, maybe not analytically for a relationship, because it's got the human component, certainly. But when I saw the chapters and realized that these respect the acronym for religion and education,
Yeah.
all those things are very important to what I was looking for. I just didn't know it.
Let me pick up on what you just said. Spending,
Yes.
politics, environment, chemistry, togetherness.
Yep.
I mean, and by the way, I had to point this out because it's really fascinating because there's more to the book than just words on a line. Look at this. I mean, she's got the entire breakdown. You can't see it because it's a page, but I mean everything that you would want to know about an individual. Now, how do you? This would almost be for somebody that's looking right now.
Right, and that's the main.
Yeah.
Those are the people who I'm hoping to reach, or people who are single, even people who are widowed. I mean, even if you're widowed, you can end up marrying the wrong person on the rebound. So you have to be careful.
See, I thought this part one that not to be unequally yoked.
Yes.
Okay,
That's very important.
That's what my parents always
Yeah.
taught me.
Right.
And of course, 52 years later, I can see they were right.
Yeah, they're very right.
But people go against that, don't they?
Yes, they always do. And I told a friend of mine about some of these things, and he was moving from North Carolina up to Washington, D.C. to go be with this girl that he had met, and he was just falling head over heels with her. And I said, well, I'm not sure. He told me a little bit about her, and I said, well, I'm not sure that's really going to be a very good match with you. And I said it nicely,
Yeah. And you were
he
laughing
said,
too, right?
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. And he said, well, I think it really has to do with the heart. And
Boy, now
so
that's a typical comeback.
it is. And he moved to Washington, D.C., and it fell apart right away.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. When you don't have enough of things in common, they have to match you.
I can't believe how many you surveyed, but you say the survey, this survey, 95.5% shared same religion.
Yes, that was huge. That was huge.
Now, what does that tell you, the one that compiles all of this.
Well, and that's the unequally yoked thing that you were talking
Yeah.
about. And, and I have everybody who's, so many people for so many different types of religions that are represented in there, because I didn't want to only have Christians represented in this. This is a book for everyone, this is for everyone, so that you can have a good marriage no matter who you are, no matter who God made you to be.
You've got different profiles, like profile R1.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you get your book, that's page 18 and 19, and Baptist and Presbyterian,
Yep.
and education and that kind of thing. Now,
Yeah.
obviously Baptist, immersion. Presbyterian, I just throw a little water on you. So that's going to be a problem, right?
Exactly, and I talked, right, and that's exactly what's so interesting about that profile, is that he's a minister, he's a Baptist minister, and they kind of had to talk about that
Sure.
for a while. And they realized that they were so similar other than that, they made it work. And they actually became missionaries and were in South America for about 10 years.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, yeah.
So the compatibility, again,
Yeah,
very important, because it's a life commitment.
It
and I
is.
think what happens today, and you'll have to help me on that.
right.
People are getting married today, and they go, well, if it don't work.
Exactly.
It used to be taboo. In my day,
Right.
my goodness. I mean, I worked for a large company in Buffalo, New York, and the manager of that company, when they interviewed, like you interview physicians,
Correct.
the manager, the general manager, could not be divorced.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
I mean, and it was a secular company.
It's going to eliminate a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was then. But can you
Yep.
imagine, we've gone full circle now,
Right.
We
and
have.
now you can walk in the pulpit divorced.
Right. Or anything, which is a little bit dangerous, I think.
Just amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into spending versus very frugal.
Right.
Okay. Now, how do you determine going with somebody, they have this thing?
Well, that's why it's so important to date, because if you go out and, I remember I had this sorority sister, and if a guy took her to Olive Garden, that was not good enough. I mean,
Really?
and I'm thinking, yeah, that's
I
what
love
I said.
Olive
Really?
Garden.
I love Olive Garden,
It's one of our mainstays.
Their spaghetti is terrific. And their breadsticks, oh my goodness.
And so she married a guy who thinks the same way that she does. Like, oh no, you go to a more highfalutin restaurant than that for your first date.
Wow.
Okay, who am I to point the finger?
We
Yeah,
did
who
go
am
out
I
to
to
dinner.
judge,
We went out to dinner on our first date.
Where?
We had steak. It was very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, we both had
worked very
steak.
It's a good
yeah.
place, huh?
Yeah,
It was good.
yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, I got to admit, when I used to try to impress Sharon,
Used to.
Still do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like real good stuff. And she said that's what, because the first question she ever asked me when I walked up to her in college, she was sitting down, I remember,
Yeah.
and she looks up at me and she goes, "What is that shirt made out of?" And I said, "Silk." She goes, "Wow."
She got the spending one right up front.
She got the spending.
Got the spending one right up front.
Because she comes from a farming community in New York, and she said, "I never wanted to marry a farmer." So
That's interesting.
yeah, so it's interesting that there are attractions based
Yeah.
upon what you want.
Yeah,
See, a lot
there
of-
are.
See, what you're pointing out, though, is a lot of folks don't realize that those components that we kind of semi-analytically looked at through the survey,
How important they are.
they really are ingredients that folks have inside them already.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're consciously aware of it if they're going in with the idea of finding Mr. or Mrs. Right. So,
Politics. She covers everything.
yes.
Okay, we're skimming over, but it's in detail. It even has the survey and how you can even grade yourself. Politics, religion, and politics. Boy, that's. I
Yeah.
mean,
Those
I mean,
are
like
important.
for example, James Carville and Mary Madeline.
Madeline.
You even bring that up.
Yep.
But there's a combination that you would never think
Never.
of. She's conservative. He's as liberal as you can possibly be.
Exactly.
And they get
exactly.
along.
Yeah, exactly.
They love each other.
Yeah, and I sent a copy of the book to James Carville's office, so I hope they enjoy it.
Well, he's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah, he
I mean,
does.
he looks as mean as a cop.
Oh, he does. Doesn't he?
Yeah, but he
But
does.
she says in their book that he looks like her ancestors. When you look at these old black and white photos from her family,
He looks like an alien.
But he looks like them apparently. So and that's one of the things too, is that they, he even looks like he's in her family. So that's another, the more commonalities, and when you're together, you'll if you're really meant to be together, if God wants you two to be together, you'll find more and more funny little things that you have in common.
Well, and your book points this out too, is the worst thing you can do is try to make somebody
What you
compatible
want,
to you.
right.
Yes.
And once you kind of get into that love area,
Right.
no matter what the parents say, you know, I don't really care for this guy. He seems like he's full of himself. The girl or the guy, whichever one you're talking to, don't see that.
Right.
So all of a sudden you become blinded.
Right.
Even if you say, you know, parents have a drinking problem. Well, he's never going to have a drinking problem because he doesn't even like to drink.
That's
Right.
dangerous.
Yeah, but I mean, those kind of things, it's like you dismiss.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you get into then making this book work?
Well, that's why dating is so important. And, you know, and it's funny because one of the people I profile in the Togetherness chapter, the two of them met over the internet back in what I call the innocent days of the internet, when, you know, people were in forums, and he lived in the Netherlands, I think, and she lived in Colombia. And they would talk, you know, over this forum, and everybody, she said it was just a small group of people and they all knew each other just from email. It wasn't even email, it was kind of a group thing. It was a forum, it was an online forum. And
Almost like Facebook, huh?
yeah, it is
Just
kind
think
of like
if they'd have thought
Facebook.
about that, they'd be a billionaire today.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And so that's how they met. And he flew over. He went on a worldwide trip, and he came over and he met her in Colombia. And they had so much in common. They're still married. They have children. And you know, why does that work? You know, and if you look at their profile, their respect principle, it matches up completely.
Okay, your buddy, Joseph.
Joe,
My
yeah.
good buddy.
Yeah, he wanted me to ask you, are you following the blood type diet?
Yeah, I really do.
Oh, good.
Because,
good.
you know, I eat a lot of chicken,
Oh, yeah.
and B negative, chicken no.
Right.
Oh, what, is that what you are?
Yes.
Oh, B negative. Okay.
And
He knows. He knows.
Yeah, you know.
And well, because they happened in the green room.
Yeah.
Well, I almost passed out.
Yeah.
I wish I had that video to come up, you know. But
I would have liked to see that myself.
I know, I would have too.
but I watch what I eat now because I have
Yeah.
I even take the list with me.
Yeah, that's good.
And chicken is something that I shouldn't eat. Well, it's a funny thing, because I used to eat a lot of chicken, and I
did
would
too.
not feel, you know, it's like I don't feel
was the
that
same
great.
with
Right,
It was the
me
same
too.
way
Yeah,
with
because
Yeah.
I'm B positive
Yes.
and he's O.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. But I don't miss chicken anymore. But I love turkey, so I just have turkey, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing. And he told me to. I told him, I said, you know, it's a funny thing. When I just have a fillet, none of the trimmings,
Yeah.
I feel super.
Yeah.
He goes,
Yeah.
and then he told me, even before he tested me, he knew what I was.
Yeah, right.
Now, how did this relate to putting you together as man and wife?
Well, exactly, and that's why in his other, not this book, but one of his other books, where he mentioned those trends, and I thought that can't possibly describe everybody. So when would it ever work outside of those parameters? And it's interesting that you say that you're type B, and I know that Sharon's type A,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And one thing that I found in the survey is that A and B tended to work out really well if they were both very religious, which you two obviously
Well,
are.
she's more religious than I am.
That's another show.
But you have that in common.
That's another show. That's another show.
But that's what I noticed, is that those two really work well as long as they're both very religious. That, on the scale of 1 to 4, my mom said to force it. She said, make them choose from 1 to 4. Don't give them a scale of 1 to 10. You know.
Well, that's
And so,
great.
yeah, it was really interesting. It's a good way to do it.
It is.
Yeah, some people cheated and would circle 2 and 3, but you know, you can't control people.
Now, type O, or the blood type O,
Yeah.
how is, that's what you are. Okay, now,
Right.
now
He doesn't follow
And
it
I don't.
though.
I'm not quite as religious about following it as my
About
wife.
the diet.
She does not ever vary from it.
No, well, I have multiple sclerosis, and so that's my biggest motivator
Wow.
for really sticking to it. Because to this day, that diet is the only explanation I've ever been offered as to why I have MS. Nobody in my family has MS or anything like it, but almost nobody in my family is type B like me. They're all type ABs or type As, and so that really provided an explanation. And I started the diet, and almost maybe within a week, my knees started feeling better. And I thought, well, maybe it was because the weather was suddenly better there in Raleigh, North Carolina. You know, it was a warm spell. And then, but when it got cold again, my knees stayed good. Like, they weren't hurting going up and down the stairs and stuff anymore.
That is amazing.
So yeah, so that's why I
it-
wanted to test it. in
he
this
knows
thing.
what he's talking about.
He really
Right.
does.
It's amazing.
He really does.
Firstborns compatibility. You talk about that, and then this kind of interesting. Donald and Charlotte, 65 years married.
Yeah.
Only children.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that fascinating? Donald actually just died.
He just died. Dr.
Yeah, he
Miller
just
just
passed.
died.
What was he?
63 years married.
Yeah. And
At
more
the
than
time-
that now.
at
Yeah,
the
he's
time
more
of the book,
probably
right,
closer
yeah.
to 70, really.
Highly compatible marriage combination, type B and type O.
Yeah, that's what we are.
And we didn't back into. I mean.
No, that's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what Joe found. And so, yeah. And so I thought, I have to see if this is a trend, because my parents are type A and AB, which is also a trend that he found in his studies.
You know, it's funny, Herman, after a while, and because I've been with my wife so long on this, that after a while, as you mentioned about trying to identify what the relationship is between two people that you see sitting next to each other, we'll walk by and somebody will say something, I'll say, she's an A. Or she's
Yeah,
a B,
even
or
he's
whatever.
doing it now.
And my wife, she'll go more often than not, you know, and of course we're not going to walk up to some stranger and ask them what their blood type is, but between the two of us, we have that inside joke of Joe Cristiano's impact.
Where
on us.
does introvert, extrovert, where does that match any of this?
You know what? I studied that,
Yeah.
and there was no trend. That there wasn't enough of a trend. And I think the reason is because people don't always analyze themselves accurately. Like somebody like my mom, who's trained in psychology, would pin you as a certain way, but maybe you would pin yourself differently. So that's where the survey, I noticed, I'm like, okay, I can't.
What are you? Introvert,
I
extrovert?
don't know. It depends. I mean, I think I would be more like 60-40 on the introvert side, and he would be more than 60-40 on the extrovert side.
Isn't it interesting?
I think sometimes what you see people in their public persona versus what they are off camera, say. Or,
I'm a total introvert. And,
see,
and
I would
you're-
not, but if we were if we left in the
Nobody believes me until I say, Sharon, you know, she knows 52 years with me. She goes, trust me, he's an introvert.
as soon as, right, if we were to leave today, say, that's one of the most extroverted individuals I've ever met. You
God
and
has a sense of humor.
You and Johnny
He really
Carson.
does.
You and Johnny Carson, right? Same thing. The word on him was, very quiet, very to himself. And
Right.
so I think what you see public, and people have a way to blend the two and make that combination work.
And my wife, she's probably more on the extrovert side because she's, she's.
Isn't that interesting? Because on TV, you two seem the opposite. She seems more the introvert, and you're more the extrovert.
But all my life I've had to push. It's like, and let me tell you something. This book will change the direction of much of your thought process. It is fabulous. And then you can find out how to get this study by, wow, she's going to give me that one.
I am.
If you don't know Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, He can change your life and take who you are and make that person that is beyond anything you could ever think or imagine. Oh God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Come into my life right now. I accept you. God bless you. Bye-bye.